And now I'm going to hand over to Anya and Zoe. So Anya Ledwith, again, most of you are going to know, because until very recently, Anya was chairman of the GDB Executive Council and has recently, we wouldn't let her go lightly, so she's now signed on as an ambassador. And we have Zoe Osmond from the Green Growth Platform. So Anya's from Eshcon, as you can see. Now I'm going to leave Anya and Zoe to introduce themselves properly, because I'll just make a mess of it. So over to the two of you.
Excellent, thank you, Jeff. So I'm going to be controlling the screen. So hopefully you can see my screen being shared.
Yes, there
you go. Right, okay. So good morning, everybody. My name is Anya Ledwith from environmental management consultancy Eshcon. And I'm joined today with Zoe Osmond from the University of Brighton from the Green Growth Platform. So Zoe, would you like just to say hello, and then you can give yourself more of an introduction later when you start your presentation.
Yeah, hi everyone, my name's Zoe Osmond, and as Anya said, I work at the University of Brighton and I'm director of a national green business innovation network, which is Clean Growth UK, and our regional hub, which is Green Growth Platform. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So Zoe and I are here today to talk about seizing the net zero opportunity. So what is that all about? It's all about green business, reducing your carbon emissions, but making it very much an opportunity for your business. So Zoe and I will go back and forth. We've got a couple of sections each. I will start with introducing the concept of green business and the benefits. Zoe will talk about the Green Growth Platform and the innovation side of things and the services that have been offered. I will then take you through taking you through your net zero journey, and then we'll finish off with Zoe talking about next steps for you, including grants that are available. So I just wanted to start with a picture of this beautiful world that we live in. Quite often when we talk about environmental issues, you see pictures of doom and gloom, which is all rather depressing, isn't it? You've got pictures of like melting ice caps and polar bears and, you know, like devastation everywhere. And yes, these pictures and these images and these issues are important, but I like to be a little bit more positive. I have more optimism. So really what we wanted to say today is all about the opportunities that you have today. Look at these beautiful pictures. Look at this beautiful world we live in. We are part of it, and that's the key here. You have an opportunity here to contribute to a better world and to maintain our already wonderful, complex, fascinating world. So just to give you a bit of introduction about who am I. So as Jess said, my name is Anya Ledwith from environmental management consultancy Eshcon, and my story starts age 10, sitting on the floor, watching David Attenborough on Life on Earth. He was so inspirational. I could see this beautiful, complex, wonderful world we live in, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do with my career. So I've gone through my whole career embedding in the environment into businesses. I was the environmental manager of an organization, and then about 14, 15 years ago, I set up Eshcon, and I help businesses through environmental management systems, ISO 14001, carbon reporting, and ESOS energy audits. But my key point here is that I want to make environmental management the business norm. So in order to do that, it has to be easy and straightforward. Environment is a complex issue, and Zoe will touch upon some of these things later, but I want to slightly stream it down to the most straightforward process for you, so you can actually take that on board within your business and see the benefits. So I wanted to start with these climate stripes. So climate change, the issues of global warming, etc., is a very complex situation. And to try and sort of like try and explain the science behind it is, you know, that in itself is a webinar or a whole lecture series. So I just want to show you these climate stripes here. This is a visual representation of very complex climate data over the last 170 years. It shows the average global temperatures. One stripe is 1 year. And as you can see, from 1870 up to 2019, I think, you can see the changes, starting with the darker, bluer, colder years and going towards the right and to the more recent years, and there's very much an increase in global temperatures. So talking about the concept of climate change, concept of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, what's driving businesses, countries, etc., to take this on board? Well, again, I don't want to go into the history of it too much, but 4 years ago, the Paris Agreement was signed. It's an international treaty signed by just about every single country in the world. And it commits us to keeping global temperatures to at least 2%, 2 degrees above 1990 levels, ideally 1.5 degrees above those levels. And countries across the world are actually committing to net zero targets, legally binding targets to put that in place. The UK was the first. We will be net zero by 2050, but also other leading economies, Japan, Korea, China, etc. They are signing up to this as well. So what's this going to do for us businesses? Well, this is trickling down to our businesses. It's not just up to the countries or the governments to deliver. Businesses are taking the opportunity now to deliver this as well. They're looking at their operational footprint, their carbon emissions, and some are even looking into their supply chain. So Unilever, BT, IKEA, I've just given you 3 examples there. They are doing this. They are setting very strict targets. I think Unilever is 2039, BT 2050, IKEA 2030 to be carbon neutral. And if they're doing it, if these larger businesses are doing it, it's going to be trickling down to the rest of us as well. Okay, you may not be a supplier to Unilever, but suppliers to Unilever will be using you as well. So this will come trickling down. So I just want to share a quick story with you about green business heroes and how they win every time. You can't see his face here, but I want to share a story about a chap called Steve Pine. He's the operations manager of a warehousing organisation. They've got about 6 warehouses in the local area. They store goods. They take in goods from their clients and send them off out to the customer. And Steve was not what usually you would call a green business hero, but he was thinking more and more about the green business issues, and he wanted to put this within his business. He was aware of various issues that are affecting the business. The soaring price of energy, his electricity and his gas prices are just going up through the roof on a regular basis. Customers are asking for environmental information. What is your carbon footprint? How are you going to reduce it? But particularly for Steve, on a personal level, he's seeing congestion, air pollution in the local area, and his son has asthma. So when they're walking to school, they're going past these traffic jams, breathing in this pollution, and he's causing asthma attacks. So the green business connection is very much for Steve. There are worrying risks for his business, but there are opportunities to raise his profile. He took his ideas to the board, and they really weren't that interested to begin with. They said it was a lot of hassle, it's too expensive, nobody cares, we're too small. How can we do anything about this? So he started with identifying his carbon footprint, his CO2 emissions. He looked at his energy, his waste, the water that they were using, the materials they're using, the transport in terms of business travel and deliveries. Put that all together into his carbon footprint, and he used that to focus on where he could reduce his carbon emissions. And what does it mean? You know, carbon dioxide is a bit of a nebulous concept, but just to give you an idea of 1 ton of carbon can fill a hot air balloon. Just think of that, the size of it. His business was responsible for 820 tons of carbon dioxide every year. 820 hot air balloons filling the air above East Grinstead, where they were based. And that is the equivalent of 271 return flights to Australia. So again, just to try to give you the idea of the concept of carbon emissions, what is that impact? Do we make a difference? Yes, you do. And there is a win-win-win for Steve within his business. He's saving £5,000 a year each year on energy and waste savings and reductions. He's identified complex legislation that he didn't even know about before. But particularly for him, he's got something to show his customers, and he's won his latest tender. So already he's seeing business for it. And again, last thing from the personal point of view, he's contributing to cleaner air, reduced congestion, reduce air pollution, and hopefully his son will see the benefit from his better quality of life from reducing his asthma. So that was the introduction to green business, the business benefits. I'm going to pass over to Zoe now to take you through the more complex details of innovation.
Thank you very much, Anya. So if you can go on to my first slide. So I'm just going to be asking Anya to go through the slides because she's in hopefully the electric driving seat. So I just wanted to let you know about our national business innovation network initially, which is Clean Growth UK. So we set Clean Growth UK up in 2018, and it's a national green business innovation network, which is led by 3 universities. And we have 3 hubs across the UK. So we have our regional hub based at the University of Brighton, which is the Green Growth Platform. We also have a hub at the University of Portsmouth with Green Tech South, and a hub up in Liverpool with the University of John Moores. And the idea behind our network is to help catalyse clean and green innovation by helping companies to access this incredible expertise that we have across the universities, you know, amazing specialist academic expertise in engineering, science, digital, health, many different subjects across the universities, and of course the incredible facilities that we have within the universities in terms of testing equipment, etc., and access to students. So we wanted to join that innovation piece with a way to help companies to then commercialize that innovation and really take it to market, because our main aim is obviously to really help, you know, turbocharge the capability of the businesses in our network to develop new environmental processes, can be processes within their business, like Anya's been speaking about, to reduce their impact, but also to develop through R&D new products, new services, new processes which they can sell to customers, and at the same time reduce impact across the environment. So we want to help both with the innovation and with the commercialization, taking those products and services to market. Next slide. So I'm going to focus the presentation today on our regional hub Green Growth Platform, because if you guys are interested in working with us, obviously you'll join your regional hub, and that will be working with our team here in Brighton. So as I say, we are the Southeast hub of Clean Growth UK. The wider national connections can really help in terms of us helping our businesses. If we don't have the right expertise or resources here in Sussex, we can link into our wider network for that. As I say, we're university led, and our mission is really to support companies to develop and commercialize green or clean products, services or processes. It's not just about technology, it's also about, you know, services and different ways that companies can interact with their clients. So not just about the sort of heavy engineering side of things. We have about 1,650 members to date, so we're sort of growing all the time, attracting new members, and about half of our membership are companies that we would say are within a low carbon or environmental sector. So that can include renewable energy, waste, water, environmental consultancies, etc. And the other half are companies within any sector who really want to have a strong green focus within their business. And I think this is really interesting that we're seeing, when we set up Green Growth Platform back in 2014, we were seeing quite a niche of low carbon environmental sector companies joining. And that's really started to mainstream more recently as we see that this is, as Anya was saying, across the whole economy and the responsibility of government and businesses of all sizes. Next slide, please. So just to give you a bit of background, we launched Green Growth Platform in 2014. And this is the sort of support that we've delivered since then. So we've worked on 170 research and development projects. Now, these are all projects between a company and a university, academic expert or group of experts. So bringing that knowledge together to really help the companies have an R&D function and successfully develop those products and services. Those projects have led to a portfolio of £4.2 million worth of investment in those R&D projects. And I'll talk to you a bit more about how we can fund these projects later on in the presentation. And these projects have led to 97 new or improved products, services or processes. So again, the idea here is to get to some real world improvements and products that you can actually take to market. And we've helped to create or safeguard 361 jobs amongst our membership. And we collect that data via our annual business survey. In addition to that, we do help our companies to access other grants and investment other than the R&D side, and we've helped them to access over £1 million worth of grants and investment over that time. Next slide. So as Anya was saying, I'm just going to add a little bit more to what Anya was saying about the climate context. Obviously, we're now at the point in the world where the science is crystal clear, and we now know that we need to limit the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. That's from pre-industrial levels by 2050, in order to avoid increasingly catastrophic impacts of climate change. Now, I totally agree with Anya that my inspiration is about, the beautiful environment that we live in and how wonderful it will be to have a world where we're not polluting and we have clean air, clean water, clean soil, and we can help to promote the beauty of that natural world that we live in and protect it. But of course, there are dangers, and we're seeing a lot of the dangers play out in terms of, flooding, wildfires, water scarcity, and for me, one of the most alarming impacts is the impact on less developed countries, particularly African countries, sub-Saharan Africa, where things could get very, very, very difficult for the populations there, and we could see mass migration on a scale, that much larger than what we've seen recently with the Syrian conflict, etc. So, these are really, really important issues, and we're talking about limiting to 1.5 degrees. It is a massive journey that we need to go on to do that, but we can do it. So we need to reach net zero by 2050. The Paris Agreement is in place. America are about to drop out. If Trump wins, hopefully that's not going to happen, and Biden will go straight back in, which will mean that we have EU, China and America all signed up, major economies. Obviously, the UK, we have a lot to be proud about. We were the first country in the world to legislate for climate change with the UK Climate Change Act back in 2008, and the first major economy to legislate for net zero 2050. So we have been doing a good job. But I think 2019, what was amazing for me last year was to see the growth in awareness. To me, it was a watershed year through Greta's work, through David Attenborough's work, through the Extinction Rebellion. It became a topic which just really spread through society, through communities, public, government, business, all realizing we've got to get into this together and solve the problem together as humanity. Next slide. So I'm not too sure if you like charts. I do really like charts and data, so I've got a few coming up, but I'll go through them quickly. So this one I think is very interesting. It shows how there has been a decoupling of growth in GDP from carbon emissions. So we can see that in the UK since 1990, our economy has, in general grown, apart from our dip in 2018. Obviously the figures will look very different now with COVID. So up to 2019, these figures. But at the same time, our greenhouse gas emissions have been decreasing. So we've been successful in that. Our economic growth does not depend on carbon. It does not depend on fossil fuels. It depends on clean energy. That's clear now. Next slide. So we can see we've gone a long way to our pathways that are set out in our UK Climate Change Act. We're doing well, but you can see that to reach net zero, the light blue dotted line, we've got to make a very steep descent, and the current carbon budgets don't get us there. So we have to up our game. Next slide, please. And the Committee on Climate Change is quite clear in its recommendations to government. You know, we've got a fantastic organisation with the Committee on Climate Change, and they make very specific recommendations in annual reports to the government about how we can do this, how we can reduce our emissions down to net zero by 2050. A few years ago, if you'd looked at this graph, you would have seen one sector, the power sector, responsible for nearly all the decrease in emissions. But now we're starting to see industry, waste and buildings starting to produce some really fantastic decreases. What we need to do is decrease our carbon emissions across the sectors of our economy. We're all responsible, we're all in this together. And you may recognise some of your sectors within these. We're going in the right direction, but we need to go much faster, and we need to go together across our industries. Next slide. So that's a good message from the UK, you know, but globally, sadly, our greenhouse gas emissions are continuing to grow. Okay, so we need to reach the tipping point where they start to decrease, and we need to get there very quickly to have a chance of staying within 1.5 degrees. However, you know, recently we've seen China just a couple of weeks ago sign up to net zero by 2060. You know, that's probably a bit too late, but you know, maybe they'll change that over the years. It's absolutely fantastic news. EU signed up to 2050 net zero, and USA, we will probably find out within the next hour or two whether they are also going to get on board with this and not be the dinosaur economy of fossil fuels. Next slide, please. So how are we doing so far? You know, as I said, the Committee on Climate Change set out these really clear recommendations to government every year for our net zero pathway. And just recently, the government announced the rollout of the £2 billion Green Homes Grant and £1 billion Public Sector Decarbonisation Fund, major investments, plus additional support for offshore wind. Now, we've seen the prices of renewable energy and wind in particular, solar as well, just really tumbling over the past few years, and they're now highly competitive with fossil fuels, and the investment community is going that way big time. People are really worried now about stranded assets. They want to get their investments out of fossil fuel and into clean energy. And the government should be making announcements quite soon in November about an overarching net zero strategy for the UK. And you know, if you're interested in finding out more detail on that, do read the Committee on Climate Change reports. All the information's in there. So this stuff is stuff we can do. We know how to do it. We need innovation. We need to continue innovating, but for the pathway we're on, it's very doable. We just need to do it. Next slide. So the business opportunity, there is an opportunity now with COVID to build back better. The investment that we need to put into infrastructure can create a greener, fairer and more resilient economy through this recovery. And, you know, it's something that I think is a great opportunity for the UK globally. So this is a quote from the CBI Director General. UK must seize the opportunity to create green jobs, boost the economy by becoming a global leader in the fight to tackle climate change. So, you know, companies in our area, your markets are regional, they're national, and they may be international. If we invest as we can do now, we're already leading the world in many areas of green technologies and approaches. We can really capitalise on this for our businesses and have fantastic export markets as well. So businesses obviously play a huge role in this and can seize the opportunity to help their growth. And how can you do this? Well, it's by reducing impact, as Anya's spoken, reducing your costs, increasing efficiencies, increasing productivity, and thus building your reputation with your customers. You can future-proof your business by switching your investment to low carbon versions. So we had an example earlier on with the EV investment and low carbon processes and solutions. You can maximize your sales and profits by developing and supplying the green products and services that customers are really crying out for now. And of course, you can meet growing demand from public sector, other businesses and customers. and just get onto this really positive train. Next slide. So how can you actually do this practically in your business? Well, those sort of 4 areas that I spoke about, I think here are some examples of how you could look at doing them. So in terms of reducing your impact, you can look at LED lighting, you could look at insulation, renewables, waste reduction, efficient processes. It's all part of the sound environmental management, and Anya is obviously our expert on this. We also do, with the Green Growth Platform, some really great workshops around clean growth innovation, of how you can look at reducing the impact of your business through things like Industry 4.0. So future-proofing, by just switching that investment onto a wise low carbon track, it's going to save you money, and it's going to really, really help your productivity as well. In terms of maximizing your sales and profits, well, a great way to do that is by developing a new suite of products, services or processes that have a green, clean flavor, which will really delight your customers and help to build genuine and valuable green credentials. That's where we can come in, so we can help you with this innovation and R&D journey. And then finally, the final step, how are you going to take these products and services to market? Get one step ahead of customer demand and commercialize your green innovation. Again, we can help with our commercialization services I'll speak about a bit more. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of our services, how we can help you. And I'm just going to take these one by one. So next slide, please. So in terms of innovation, how does it work? Well, we will meet with you. If you've got an idea, you've got a concept, you're not quite sure how to realize it, we would start off with an innovation discovery session where our innovation team will meet with you and talk about what you want to achieve, what the market for it might be, and what gaps you might have in expertise to be able to carry out this R&D or this product development or service development. We'll then see if we've got any university expertise or facilities that could help you within that. Obviously, lots of large companies have R&D units or teams. Not many SMEs can afford that. So our role is almost to act as a sort of R&D hub for our SME community. We can help you identify R&D funding, innovation funding. There are many, many sources of it in the UK. The UK is investing heavily in that at the moment. And we can help you to deliver the project, manage the project, and make sure it comes to fruition, and then link you into our commercialization services so that you can take that to market. And you can just see here, there's a little snapshot of some of the expertise that we have across the university network. It's more or less anything you might need help with. Basically, we've probably got somebody somewhere, or if not, know another university that has. Next slide. So in terms of commercialization investment readiness, again, we'll have this sort of discovery meeting with you to find out what your needs are. And the idea really is to really help you take these products and services to market so that they help increase your profitability or your sales, lead to the growth that you might be looking for. And so we'll help you via one-to-one coaching. We have a roster of about 20 specialist business coaches, of which Anya is one actually. And we can help you to look at your business plan, look at your commercialization strategy and take that forward. We have workshops, I'll talk about those in more detail later. We have an amazing peer-to-peer program called ProfitNet, and we can help you with investor links and help you to prepare your pitches to investors as well. Next slide. So other benefits of membership other than our services. We have a member portal on our website, and there you can access a funding search, and that will help you to find funding for innovation, for business growth, and for energy efficiency. We have a collaboration and opportunities board where our members post up calls for collaboration. We put some funding calls on there as well, and jobs, etc. And then we have the suite of resources, tutorials, videos, downloadable business canvas tools and stuff like that. And you'll also get a newsletter every month with news about events and members, etc. So please do join us. There's a link there. Next slide. And I'm just going to go through a few case studies with you to give you a flavour of how that works in practice. So next slide. So one of our members, Waterblade, came to us with a fantastic idea of a tap which saves a huge amount of water, basically by sort of splaying out the water into a beautiful blade. Looks a bit like the Dyson Airblade, but with water, that you just push your hands through that blade, and it's great for cloakrooms and hotels and businesses. So we supported Nigel with the product development, with our product development team. We've helped him to apply for lots of grants to fund product development. And we've also helped him to get investor ready. He's about to pitch at the Clean Tech Venture Day coming up at the end of November, which we're sponsoring. We've provided him with lots of support for commercialization, prototyping, investment, etc. And that product is just going from strength to strength. And he's got sales into lots of big blue chip companies. So obviously, if you're saving huge amounts of water, you're also saving huge amounts of energy and carbon. So that's great. Next slide. And this is a company called OSET Bikes, who are based in East Sussex, and they're the world leader in design and manufacture of electric trial and motocross bikes for young people. And they wanted to look at the design for more powerful adult electric bikes, and they had a number of design challenges. So we linked them into our product design and engineering team, and they're designing these really high performance electric adult trial bikes. We've done that through an amazing program, which is called Knowledge Transfer Partnerships. It links a company into the university to do a strategic project, which will lead to really big business benefits, new products, higher profits, higher sales, etc. And that program is funded by the government, Innovate UK, who pay 2/3 of the cost. The company pays 1/3. So basically, for the price of recruiting a graduate, what you're getting is a whole academic specialist team and facilities behind you, and they transfer that knowledge into your company through the graduate, who will work with you on the project and be supervised by the company and by the academic together. Next slide. Another knowledge transfer partnership we've done is with BCMY, and they're a fantastic net zero recycling company for printer cartridges, and they have a whole zero waste philosophy. So working with us, they really wanted to understand their stock, how they get lots of different types of print cartridges, and they need to know how to recycle, repurpose, reuse these cartridges to get more value out of their stock. So we help them with a digital stock sales and ordering system, which we helped set up through our digital teams at the University of Brighton. And that's making a massive impact in their business in terms of creating value for the stock going through their business, enabling them to take on specialist knowledge in the digital sphere, which they didn't have, and integrate that into their business through a knowledge transfer partnership. Next slide. So I think that's the end of my initial piece. And back over to Anya in the green room.
Thank you, Zoe. So Zoe's sort of like focused as much on the innovation side of things. So if you're a business that's looking to develop a green product or a green service, that green growth platform is definitely for you to be helped in terms of developing those ideas. What I'd like to do is just very, very quickly take you through the net zero journey for, let's say, a normal company, shall we say. So rather than the low carbon sector's business, I'm focusing more on every other business that just wants to reduce their environmental impact, control their carbon, etc. And I've distilled a very complex journey of how to get to net zero into 5 easy stages, which I just quickly want to take you through. Firstly is calculate your carbon footprint. So again, it's a complex set of methodologies in terms of developing the data for electricity and gas within your buildings, your company vehicles, the materials you're using, other fuels, refrigerants, etc. Collect that data. Oh, my phone's going off. Collect that data, do the calculations, and you get your carbon footprint in tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Next stage is to set your target. So what do you want to do? What are your objectives within your business? Is it just to reduce emissions? So in that case, maybe set yourself a reduction target of, I don't know, 10%. Or do you want to go carbon neutral, or set yourself a more aspirational net zero target? So it's understanding what your objectives are and set your target, but it's absolutely crucial to say by when. Do you want to be net zero by 2025, 2030, 2050? These are the decisions you need to make before going on to the next stage to develop your action plan. And I've just got that little point there to inspire to get results. Get your staff involved, get them engaged, understand what's important to your customers and your other stakeholders, and that will allow you to set your target. Set your action plan. You should be following the carbon management hierarchy. And again, I've distilled it down into a very few points here. Firstly, avoid. So avoid the carbon that you're producing in terms of your strategy, your investments, your procurement. Just think about things to avoid. Then reduce your emissions. And the classic things is looking at your energy within your buildings, electricity, gas, heating oil, etc. But also your business travel, company cars, deliveries, etc. There's huge opportunities for you to reduce your emissions. Substitute is an alternative. So find alternatives. Renewable energy that you're purchasing is an obvious one. Maybe consider renewable energy production on your building through solar panels or wind turbines. And the last element of the hierarchy is compensate, and I'll come on to that next, because that's all about rebalancing your carbon emissions. So offsetting projects such as energy efficiency projects or high quality woodland management projects, you offset your annual carbon emissions, so your annual footprint. So going back to Steve Pine at the beginning, 832 tons of carbon dioxide was his annual emissions. You purchase offsets to cover that, and that effectively sets you out as carbon neutral. And the last stage is to review. So it's good management practice to keep looking back at your activities. Go back to your carbon footprint. You need to calculate it on a yearly basis to check for your progress and your reductions. You can revisit your targets, certainly tweak your action plan and rebalance on a regular basis. So that will effectively take you through your net zero journey. There are some companies that are concerned about the cost element from the rebalancing, from the offsetting side. So I would say, if you're concerned about that, don't rebalance just yet. Set your target. If you said you're going to be net zero by 2030, you don't need to actually do your offsetting or your rebalancing until then. But you focus on your reductions now. There are still great opportunities for your business in terms of reduction. And the more you reduce now, the less you have to rebalance and offset in the future. And therefore you reduce your costs at short, medium and long terms. So that, in a nutshell, is your net zero journey. Gone through it very quickly, and the point is here that it is a complex thing. You can look at business as usual scenarios, you could plan for growth, etc. But all those things are very complicated. If you distill it down into a simple process, you're far more likely to get started, you're far more likely to see progress and actually become net zero. So over to Zoe.
Thanks, Anya. So I'm just going to whiz through this because I want to leave time for questions. KTPs, I've already spoken to you about that, so I won't focus on that. That's the Innovate UK funded one. They fund 2/3. Fantastic way to deliver a strategic business project. Talk to us about them. If you're a company with at least 4 or 5 employees and you can afford to employ a graduate level person, it's a fantastic program, and we've got 100% success rate in getting that funding within our KTP team. Next slide. Low case grants. So it's a program called Low Carbon Across the South East that we've been running in East Sussex and across Essex and Kent since 2016. It's now coming soon to West Sussex and Brighton and Hove. So just to let you know, it's basically grants for either businesses in any sector for environmental performance and energy efficiency, or businesses with environmentally focused sectors. And they can get grants for energy efficiency, but also for business development, marketing, or innovation as well, or equipment that they might need. So the grants fund 40% of the cost of a project, up to 10K, and we can help you through the process. It's not too onerous. They are available very, very soon in the Selep area, East Sussex. And we think that C2C, they're going to be available from March 21. So maybe put that in your diary for now and get in touch. You can register interest by this link. And I assume we're sending these slides out, Anya, afterwards.
Yes.
Thank you. Next slide. So in addition to knowledge transfer partnerships and low-case grants, there's a whole range of different grants that we haven't got time to go into. The best thing to do is to either speak to one of our team or first check out our funding tool on our website. So you do need to be a member to access that. It's free to join, and then you can log into our members portal. And we can provide you with specific advice and signposting about a very wide range of grants. UK, Innovate UK, LEP grants, EU grants, etc., for energy efficiency, for innovation, or for business growth as you need. These grants obviously come and go, so the best thing to do is check out a funding tool on our website or speak to one of our team. Also, our investment readiness service is there to really help you prepare your pitch for investors if you've got a need for investment to expand or take a new product to market. Next slide. Have a look at our website as well for our events, because we do a fantastic range of workshops. They're all free. And the ones we've got coming up in November, December and January are Clean Growth Innovation. That's around energy automation and processes. So it's really around what Anya's been talking about, how you identify opportunities for saving energy within your business, rather than the sort of innovation R&D side of things. Similar, we've got Clean Growth Innovation, Circular Economy. So how can you introduce circular economy processes and approaches within your business to save materials? We've got a couple of great sort of basic business workshops on business model canvas and access to finance coming up. Introduction to art of sales for green innovators, and then finally marketing oomph, which is something that probably everyone can benefit from. So do have a look at our events on our website. We do have a national events programme as well called Future of, and our next one of those is Future of Materials, and that's on the 26th of November. Should be really, really interesting speakers, national level speakers there. Next slide. So the call to action from me is to join Clean Growth UK. You're very, very welcome if you think your company has got some sort of green focus or green interest. Join at our website for free. You then have access to our services and our membership benefits. As I say, the membership is free. Our services are normally either free or heavily subsidised. Do check out the low-case grants that are coming up from sometime early next year, and the knowledge transfer partnership funding and projects, which are absolutely amazing way to increase your sales or profitability or move to a new level in your business. Come to our workshops. We'd love to see you there. And if you want to have a one-to-one chat with one of our team, the best way is to get in contact through our website. We've got our Green Growth Platform Hub page, which has a contact form. So that's sort of the first route in, really, to get in touch with us. And I think that's me. Next slide is probably, questions.
Yes, well, thanks, Zoe and Anya. You've covered a huge amount of ground. You've taken us around the world, in fact, which has been great. We have got time for some questions. We could overrun a little if people would like to hang on. But can I just, Caroline, first of all, because you joined us after we'd done introductions, would you like to just introduce yourself? Perhaps not.
Hi, hello. My name's Caroline. I'm a barrister and company secretary, and I'm really interested in ESG issues, corporate governance issues, and obviously environmental, very much so. Okay, thanks a lot, Caroline.
Okay, so can I throw it open for questions? Just wave or put an electronic hand up. I can see Stefan?
Yeah, hi. Thanks a lot, Anya and Zoe. That was awesome. We kind of starting the journey at the moment, and I was just wondering if there's any tool that you found that was pretty simple. I mean, for a service-based, office-based company to measure our carbon footprint.
This is a service that I offer to businesses. So my what I've just put in the chat there is not necessarily about measuring your footprint, but it's actually taking you through the whole process, and the measuring is the first stage of it. So the process would be on measuring your footprint is to gather your data. You need 12 months of data of your electricity, gas, materials, water, business travel, etc. And then you apply emissions factors to each of those issues, and that gets your final footprint in tons of carbon dioxide. There isn't an easy, freely available tool, unfortunately, but have a chat with me and we can talk through how we can take you through it. No problem.
I was going to say, Anya, what about the Carbon Trust? They have some tools.
Yeah, it's a little bit dated now, and you just need to make sure that the emissions factors are correct and updated, because it's really important that when you're calculating your footprint on a yearly basis, that you use the most up-to-date carbon emissions factors, and you recalculate your previous years so that you're comparing apples with apples. And the reason because of this is because the emissions factors for electricity change on an annual basis depending on the electricity generation mix that you get across the country. So if you see that your carbon footprint has gone down, it might not be through your activities. It could just be because the grid is cleaner and greener now. So yeah, check out the Carbon Trust, but it's not necessarily the most up to date.
Thank you. Brandon.
Hi. Yeah, that was really interesting. Thank you. Could you give me a bit more information about how the offsetting works if you want to do that, and or if you have some land that you want to plant trees in, or you've already got a wood? How do you get involved in that? How does it work?
Like anything in the environmental management field, it's not straightforward. It's not a case of like planting a few trees and then being able to offset your emissions. Tree planting has to be long-term and very well managed. So I'm speaking to developers at the moment who want to chuck in a couple of trees in as a part of a housing estate. It's not as simple as that, unfortunately. But again, we can talk about these things as long as you've got the long-term management plan. We can look into that. The other option, basically, I have connections with offsetting companies, and they are very high quality offsetting companies, so that you are confident that the tree planting or the energy efficiency projects or the clean energy projects that are being delivered are high profile, so high quality and non-additional, so that you have to make sure that the funding that you're putting towards it, the project wouldn't have happened without that funding. So again, it's rather complicated. Have a chat with me about it.
Okay, thanks.
So to add to that, Anya, do you know what options there are locally? Because I know the Sussex Local Nature Partnership, Sussex Wildlife Trust have been doing some work on this, because it'd be quite nice for businesses to be able to invest locally in land management, carbon sequestration, biodiversity, etc.
Absolutely. I'm currently working with the Sussex Wildlife Trust to develop their net zero strategy. And that's one of the things that they're looking at, is how they manage their land. And would you believe, well, you probably would if you knew about it, that the massive proportion of their carbon impact comes from the cows and sheep that are grazing their landscapes, because they are ruminants and they give off an awful lot of methane. So they're thinking about how to manage their nature reserves in a less carbon intensive manner. But yes, again, like look into the local projects. There's also another organisation called Sea Level, based at the University of Sussex in the Innovation Centre. They do projects all over the world as well.
Right. Anybody else? I'm not seeing any. Can I ask a question?
Please
I'll
do.
put you on the spot a bit. With COVID and everything else, we're seeing huge change. We're seeing businesses having to totally rethink what they do, and we're seeing an acceleration of change and opportunity as well. So, looking at it from a business opportunity perspective, if you were a business at the moment, small business in whatever field you might be in, and you were looking for opportunities, and you could see, you know, the whole green issues and everything else, are there specific areas you'd point to, whether it's services or products or whatever, where there's going to be real business opportunities going forward, particularly for smaller businesses?
Zoe, would you like to cover that?
Well, I think, you know, it really depends on the business sector you're talking about, but to give you a few examples that we've been seeing recently, I mean, one company we work with was in the exhibition space, you know, designing exhibitions. Now, obviously, there are no exhibitions happening. So what they're looking at doing is developing a virtual version of a product engineering type exhibition, which is what they've specialized in. So taking it completely virtual and using lots of software tools to do that. So it just really depends, I think, on which business sector you're in, but there are many ways within your business, but also to serve your customers, which will have a reduced impact. So I do think, you know, COVID is an opportunity. It's obviously a terrible situation we're in, but it is also a bit of an opportunity to press the reset button and think, do we need to go back to, you know, traveling so much by using cars and trucks, etc.? Can we do a lot more of our business online? But the virtual world gives lots of opportunities for that. So I think it's a time that we can have a bit of a pause. You know, a lot of us, I think, have been reconnecting with nature in our lives outside work. And as you're having a little wander through the trees, give a little think to, you know, what could I do within my business? What could my customers want that could have that double benefit of reaping economic gains for your business, but also reducing our environmental impact?
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's been great. My pet favorite would be an alternative to plastic dog poo bags. That's it. You sort that out, and I'll be quite happy. That's been really great. It's so pertinent for us as a region, the Gatwick Diamond. You know, how do we grow back better and greener, given how essential the airport and international travel has been to our economy? You know, there's a massive challenge and a massive opportunity, and I think you've given us a lot of food for thought. So thanks to Zoe and to Anya. Round of applause, I think.
Thank you.
That's your thing, but never mind, I'm sure you're clapping. And thanks to all of you. And I think you've heard from Zoe and Anya that they both, or their organizations or themselves individually, would love to hear from you. So thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.